Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Hey/X/, what's some of the crazy shit you've experienced?
Be me. Work at a fast food restaurant. Work the front counter one night. A dude comes in and makes a pretty small order that comes up to about $20 or even less. Pays with $100. Get my manager to see if it's real. But something is off about the customer. The guy is very monotone, like he hasn't spoken the English language until fairly recently. His accent is just not normal and very thick. Seemed to be very poor at communicating and pointed at the pictures on the screens, and by numbers, not as a number 1 or number 2 meal, but as a 1 or a 2 instead. Overall, he was just very creepy. He also walked with an odd limp, like he had only begun learning to walk. Ask him if he was hurt. Explicitly mention his limp. Limp? Asks like he's never even heard of the goddamn word. He holds the bagged up food in the most unnatural fashion, like he's learning how to hold a bag, and walks out, asking the limp question again. You weren't the only one who was freaked out by that guy, were you? I asked my manager. I try not to think of it. Weird things happen around this store or not, Anon. TLDR. A possible skinwalker or fleshgate or shapeshifter came into my workplace and ordered food, all while failing to pass as human. Still don't know where one of those things could even get a $100 bill from.
Be me. Winter 2006. Offered a house sit for a cousin who lives in Texas while he goes to a friend's wedding. Don't really know this friend too well, so no problem with not going. Girlfriend tags along. Drive is about 9 hours away from where I was living at the time. The house is pretty cozy, 1 story, and is pretty far back into the woods. There's an actual driveway that goes on, the kind that you'd easily hear someone if they were coming in. The first day or two we settled in, and nothing of interest happens. Kinda quiet. Third day, my girlfriend tells me she was out in the woods surrounding the house, and she got this odd feeling of being watched. I assume it's just her being her. But no, I go out there with her. That feeling is creepy. Third night is when I start hearing something. Had the windows cracked open, still with screens down, but I was able to hear if something was going on outside. I start to think it's some small animal or a deer making its way through the yard. Roll over and try to go back to sleep. Nodding off when I notice my girlfriend has a look of pure fear on her face. Anon, there was just this big thing that walked by the window, she whispers as quietly as she can. Turn around to see if it's still there. See nothing, but can hear something is walking around out there. Seems to be walking back into the woods, and it is just thrashing everything in its way. Neither of us sleep that night. Keep the TV on to calm her, and hell, even me down. Next day, go out to the woods. There's been branches snapped. More importantly, it looks like something just walked right through some brush, annihilated it. Damn, in inner Ron Simmons. Keep exploring the woods a little further, and I notice that there's some tracks. These are dog-like tracks. What the fuck, .jpg. These were some big-ass dog-like prints. To give you an idea, my hand was able to fit right into the center or palm of the foot, begin looking where I came from, and start making my way back. Have no clue what this is. Make it back to my cousin's house. Girlfriend is in the kitchen. Anon, you're insanely pale. What happened? I tell her what I saw. Oh yeah, there is something out there. Call my cousin right after. Anon, what's this about? I ask cousin Jerry. Not his real name, but going with that for the story. If there's any wild dogs in the area, unnaturally large ones. Pause. Look, Anon, this is not a time to be talking about this, but I'll explain it to you when I have time. Jerry hangs up. Well, fuck you too, Jerry. Jerry calls me back later that day. Tells me he has some searchlight-like things he uses. Girlfriend and I spend the afternoon setting them up across the yard. Night falls, and we turn them on. We get ready for bed, but my girlfriend asks me if I saw what I think I saw. Tell her yes. They were canine footprints the size of my hand. Even without the lights on all around the premises, we just find it too hard to fully knock out. She falls asleep around midnight. Around 12:30 to 1 a.m. is when I hear noise. I slip out of bed as quiet as possible and hide under the window, peeking up to see if this thing was back. It's cutting through, coming around from the back and to the side of the house. Quickly leap back to the bed. My girlfriend wakes up, and as much as I try to get her to calm down, she freaks. I turn around, and there it is. It's huge. It's about 7 feet tall, white fur, canine or wolf-like facial features, eyes yellow, and it is staring back at us as we catch a glimpse of it. Looks like it's carrying some smaller animal like a pig or something on its shoulder, while it bares fangs at us briefly. After that, another appears, about 2 feet shorter than the other. This one has darker fur, same color eyes, and is baring these long teeth at us. The taller one looks down to the shorter one and snarls. The shorter one stops what it's doing and darts off. The taller one growls and turns its back to us and walks, not runs. Walks back to the woods. We hear the two rustling from the woods as they head back into the forest. After that, I immediately grabbed my phone, told my girlfriend to lock the bedroom door, and called 911. I think to myself, what am I going to tell them? I saw 2 wolfmen. Lie to the cops. Tell them we thought there were 2 suspicious people who were on the property. Half an hour passes, and it's quiet. Then I hear a car pulling into the driveway. Lights flashing. Oh, thank God. Cops show up. Girlfriend and I come up with the lie that 2 people were dressed rather oddly and were sneaking onto the property. Tell them my cousin Jerry lived there, and we were house-sitting while he was away. The cops look at us funny when taking statements. They skulk around a bit, find nothing of any importance. Tell us to give them a call if anything further happens. Exchange numbers, and they're off on their merry way. Girlfriend and I proceed to lock every door imaginable in that place. Lock ourselves in the bedroom. I take a knife with me from the kitchen just in case. Have no idea where a gun could be and would have to ask Jerry, and I don't know if he'd be available to answer. Spend the rest of the night awake, TV on, but we do not at all go back to sleep. We both pass out around sunrise. Day 5. I wake up at about 2 p.m. Get a call from Jerry. Anon, the police called me. Is everything okay? Tell him we're fine, but ask him if he keeps a gun. Jerry tells me he keeps a handgun locked in a safe in his closet. Gives me the combination. Anon, what happened? I spill the beans to Jerry. Tell him not to think of me as crazy, but I tell him what I saw. Jerry is insanely calm about it. Anon, you're not a nutbag. I see them all the time. You read that right. Them. Jerry tells me the big white one is the most common one seen. Tells me he thinks that one is like a pack leader or something, since smaller or shorter ones seem to not mess with it. Tells me whatever I do, just try to be calm and don't instigate any fights with it. I begin to ponder on that pack leader thing, especially after the interaction between the big white one and the smaller, darker one. Got one more day. Jerry gets back the next evening. Day 5 turns to night 5. We keep the house locked down, keeping the TV mute but keeping all weapons in the bedroom. They arrived early this time. It's about 10 p.m. when it starts. Grab Jerry's gun and start stalking around from inside the house. There's 4, not 2 of them this time. I estimate this from how many different ones there were. Lights were shining from the outside, but I got a good look at the group as they dash in and out of the woods. All 4 have what appears to be black fur. All of them are roughly 5 feet 8 inches to 5 feet 11 inches. My girlfriend comes running to the living room. Anon, it just walked right up to the bedroom window. I start sitting on the couch in the living room as the one that peeked into the bedroom had come around the house. While scared, I don't think it wanted to hurt us. I think it was just curious about who we were. As soon as it appeared, I kept the gun pointed at it, and that's when it hit. A very audible, guttural growling. The backyard lights are on and give us a better look at it. It's the white one. The smaller black one goes running up to it. Getting a better look at it, this white one was kinda chunky. Not super overweight, but there was a bit of a gut on it. I lunged back onto the couch after seeing it walk over to where it saw the smaller one. And there we are, face to face with the large, white dogman. This stare down goes on about 2 minutes. It's like the smaller one's still scared, but didn't think it was going to kill us, though it made it very clear without words that it was not to be screwed around with. After the stare down, it bellows out. After that, I hear what sounds like the others running back to the woods again. Run out of the door in the kitchen to get a glance of this. See them gone, but 2 pairs of yellow eyes are staring back at me as the white one walks back. It's got an obvious limp and is slower than the others. Hear it growl at the one staring back as it walks back into the darkness. Day 6 arrives. My girlfriend and I discuss what the hell that was all about. Jerry finally comes back around 8 that night. Tells us we could crash with him that night if we didn't want to take the trip back at night. Tell him it's cool, but we'll be fine. Don't discuss the sightings with him. Girlfriend and I are about 45 minutes into our ride home. It's pitch black out, but that doesn't deter us. Have the radio on to calm nerves. While listening to what I think was some talk show, my girlfriend points at me to look out the window. There he is again. 7-footer, white fur, hanging out by the side of the road, eating an animal carcass. He looks up and back at us. Heart is racing that he's gonna lunge, or worse, others are gonna jump the car. Nothing of that sort happens. He goes back to his meal shortly after. Still decide to nope out of there. When we got back into the nearest town, I did happen to get pulled over for speeding. Oh well. This isn't my or my girlfriend's first creature sighting or paranormal experience. It was her first experience with dogmen, though. Been back to Jerry's property since. Over the years, my sightings of the big white one declined. The last time I even think I saw that one was maybe 2011 to 2012-ish. Maybe it's died since. I do not know.
I know a couple of cops who've seen ghosts. One guy still won't go back to the old Navy base, abandoned for over 20 years now, near here because he once saw and heard a soldier's ghost out there in one of the 19th century buildings. This was years after the base had closed and late at night, so they didn't suspect an official visitor. There are no formal caretakers, never were, only a couple of areas where the Navy occasionally does some work, cleaning up PCBs and shit like that. They were supposed to have finished ages ago, but have been dragging their feet forever. My friend and his partner both saw the figure of a man, a figure backlit in the window of an unoccupied old brick building. They were out patrolling because there are still residential neighborhoods on the decommissioned base with tenants and ordinary people living there. These areas are fairly close to whole, spooky blocks of empty, slowly deteriorating buildings. But because there have long been rumors of haunted happenings, and because the old base is on an island and thus isolated from the nearest town by water, for a long time the buildings remained unvandalized, and trespassers and graffiti were actually rare. So the officers went closer and investigated, but found no doors or windows open at all, and the lights and the figure they'd seen from a half a block or so away vanished. They'd heard sounds as if the guy was talking to himself, but when they got closer, there was only silence. Maybe there was a subterranean entrance, but the water table is really high out there, so doubtful. My buddies said they examined every door and window, and the accumulated dust and crap was undisturbed. The padlocks on the doors were rusty and looked like nobody had opened them in years. The building stood off by itself in a field of gravel, which had once been a proper parking lot. There were no trees or smaller buildings from which you could have gotten onto or off the roof even.
Be me, about a year ago. Live alone. No food or money. Haven't eaten for 3 weeks. Life looking hopeless. Feeling weaker than a kitten. Think about offing myself. Or just closing my eyes and not waking up again. About to doze off. Suddenly a bright column appears in the room. See my dead brother in it. And he steps out. He's wearing a vest, shorts and flip-flops, like he's on a beach about to go surfing. He's laughing at me, pointing and clapping. Says, "Come on, you'll be okay. Thought you were the tough one." And refers to our childhood. Continues to berate and laugh at me, saying, "Well, if only people could see you." What was the point of all that training? Demands that I sort myself out, and never wants to come back to talk to me about this again. Disappears in a beam of light. Cried a little and fell asleep feeling peaceful. Thought I was just hallucinating. A few months later, I learned he was buried in the exact clothes I saw him in.
Be me driving back from Maine to Massachusetts on Christmas Eve morning, about 2 a.m. 2016. Drove an old Volvo, so I tried to avoid holiday traffic, figuring it would be the smoothest ride. It was until I reached the toll booth. Waited for a solid minute. The teller was like she was turned off until she casually turned and took my change without a word. Okay, am I in some Twilight Zone episode? No, she must just be depressed or something. Kept driving with an increasing uneasiness. I was paying attention to the road more than ever in pure gut when I see a car pulled over on the breakdown by Lowell, Massachusetts. First sign that something was wrong. It was slightly sticking out right on the white line. I turn and see the lights in the fast lane approaching me. I was in the middle. Hit the brakes.jpg. A flatbed stopped dead in the middle of the fast lane on 495 at 2 a.m. I pass by going about 5 miles per hour. I see a woman. She was hysterical. I see what was a man. His boots literally knocked off. He looked as stiff as a nutcracker. I see 2 other men. One the driver that hit him, the other the flatbed driver. Both standing in the highway at night in utter shock. I pull over and a white box truck does behind me as well. I call 911. There's an emergency on 495. We know. We are sending assistance now. You don't understand. There is a dead body in the highway and 3 other people standing over it. Understood. Sending all available. Click. Well shit.gif. I happened to have a neon shirt I was using for a Halloween costume and had a spare trunk blanket I hadn't opened. I walk over to the scene, well aware that it was a highway at 2 a.m. I was blank. She was still in disbelief that he was dead. Man who hit him. For the love of God, does anyone have a blanket? I toss him my blanket. A car going 60 miles per hour drives between us. Fuck, this is still a live highway. I take the shirt and start flagging down cars asking for a road flare. Everyone passed out from the sheer horror of the scene, but it was stopping traffic into a jam. I see lights. I turn to walk away and the box truck driver grabs me. Trucker Anon. Don't step in that. Bad time for a walk right now. I see a stomach ripped open and its entrails strewn across the road. I got into my car before I had to answer any questions and drove home. Merry Christmas, although I was quite humbled by it, I guess.
A little over 10 years ago, one of my immediate family members passed away after a long and horrible illness. I don't want to get into the details, but after she passed, there was this demonic energy for a few months inside my father's house. It was just this huge amount of hate everyone had. and this just dark hatefulness and anger that affected everyone. I blame my brother's meth abuse and witchcraft for bringing it into the house. Now for the scary part. My dad has a flat roof and his house is only 1 story high. I was up at like 3 a.m. and I heard what sounded like clear as day footprints on the roof, like it was dancing back and forth across the roof. It lasted almost 5 minutes. I know I wasn't dreaming, and I heard them just as clear as day. It was really, really loud. I had heard animals run across the roof before, and it sounded nothing like what I had heard. Whatever it was definitely was very heavy, walked on 2 legs, and moved like a person. Didn't scurry. A few years ago, my dad was up on the roof, and I was home visiting him. So I asked him to walk back and forth across the roof while he was up there as I sat in the living room and listened. It turns out that a person does not sound like what I heard that night. I even asked him to hop around up there, and it was still nothing compared to what I heard. It didn't even come close. In hindsight, I know it wasn't a person like I thought. I think it may have been hooves stomping back and forth on that roof that night.
All right, I'll tell my story, and my best rational explanation for it afterwards. Here's what happened. Me, 19, live with my family. We're moving from one apartment to another. Wind up doing all the heavy lifting and coordinating the move, packing and moving things during the day, and then sleeping alone in the old place each night. The last few days, as I'm drifting off to sleep, I hear a voice calling. Help me, I've fallen. Please, I'm so cold. Please help. Jolts me right out of the hypnagogic state. Sets my teeth on edge and my hair on end. Every time I start to drift off, I hear it. So I reach for that nighttime, coughing, aching, sneezing medicine. Old Crow bourbon whiskey. And also Jim Beam. That was another reason I bunked at the old place while we were moving. I had a lot more liquor on deck than I legally should have and wanted to keep a close eye on it. Chug whiskey each night until I couldn't hear shit, and not shit could wake me up. Make it through the move. Last day, a neighbor's chatting. Says it must be a relief moving after the old lady next door died. Press her for details. As it sinks in, I might have been drinking myself insensate to ignore a dying woman's calls for help. Neighbor says they found her corpse 3 weeks before. She was already dead well before I ever heard her voice. So my best logical explanation is, I had heard her call for help, subliminally while she was dying, but it didn't register because I was too distracted. It was only when I was at the old apartment, alone, in solitude, with no cable and all my video packed up, I started to remember it as I fell asleep. My mind recreated it in the absence of stimuli, and then it hit me when I had no distractions to focus on. That's my best rational guess.
When I was like 12 or 13, me and my friends stumbled upon a sort of gardening allotment with lots of little sheds that was walled off in our area and hadn't noticed before. We curiously explored it, but it was freaky looking as hell. We had older kids in our group, 16 to 17, so we went for it. Visibly unkept. Wasn't really accessible without climbing a little wall with iron bars on it, and just creeped us out a bit. I went in, being one of the tough guys in our group, along with 3 or 4 more of us, and looked inside the first of like 20 or so tiny little garden shed type huts. There were newspaper articles pinned up on the inside of the one I checked out, along with one that stood out to me at the time. It was a few months after the whole Madeleine McCann disappearance thing, and I don't remember looking at what all the articles were about, but I remember there were several about her disappearance, including one with her picture, with a circle drawn in pen over her picture, and an X in the middle, with a rusty old knife jammed right into her face. I shouted my mates to get over there and look, they saw it too, and we immediately let our imagination get the better of us and got the hell out of there. Told our friends what we saw. No camera phones back then. We were a bit freaked out. Told our friends' parents who lived close by, and we phoned the police about it, who came and had a look. I don't remember what they said about it all, but we thought we had done our bit and left it at that. A few weeks later, we'd passed the area where the allotments were, and found it had all been leveled out, and none of that shit was there anymore. It was basically earth and grass, and that was the end of it, as far as we were concerned. Not paranormal, I know, but it was pretty damn spooky to just randomly find that shit, considering we just happened upon that area we hadn't noticed before, as it was well out of the way of the road, and decided to go explore it as you do. I'm obviously from the UK, and I wish I had taken more time checking the place out. But we were worried whoever did that shit might still be there, as the layout of the place was really dense, and you didn't know what was in each little shed thing. Was probably junkies or late teens being edgy, but it was really eerie at the time, as you can imagine, to a bunch of young kids.
Years ago, was a security guard in an old mill building. The mill building was renovated to become apartments. Get a call from a tenant one night saying that it sounded like people were arguing in the apartment next door. Go to the apartment in question. Knock on the door. Try the door, but it's locked. Go back to the computer and look up the apartment. It's vacant. Don't think it was homeless people. It was on the 4th floor. Also, as a follow-up, there were a few times when I was doing my rounds when doors would close on me and I'd feel like I didn't belong in a certain room. Once I sprinted my rounds because it felt like something was angry with me. My time as a security guard there wasn't too eventful. Like I said, sometimes heavy doors would slam in front of me, or after I walked into a room. There was also a general aura of uneasiness in certain rooms. Other times, it felt like something was angry that I was there. I'm a cop now, and I have more creepy stories. I'll share one now. Get called to a burglary in progress. A 12-year-old had called 911 saying someone broke in upstairs. Show up with one other unit and a K9. The 12-year-old is outside. Says that he saw a shadow in the upstairs window. Go in, guns drawn. Hear thuds coming from upstairs. Make ourselves known. Give K9 commands. The K9 officer sends his dog in, but the dog doesn't pick up on anything. He's extremely confused because the dog should be going ballistic at this point. He recalls the dog. Myself and the other officer go up. Clear the whole house. Nothing. We're all pretty confused, but we even checked the attic and the crawl space and found nothing. Wait for the 12-year-old's parents to come home. They apparently moved in 2 weeks ago. Leave and look up the house. 2 people died at the same time and same place due to overdosing on heroin. It was the room where we heard the thuds coming from, and where the kids saw the shadows. Yeah, that was a weird call.
I've experienced a lot of ghosts and stuff, but never something that felt particularly malicious and predatory until tonight. Be me, 2 hours ago. Get back from a job at work at like 8 p.m. Both my brother and I see the gate to the shop is wide open. Should be closed by now. Odd.jpg. Walk into the shop, disarm security, do paperwork, and clock out. Notice the door to the main office is ajar. Can only be like that if someone tried to close it stealthily. Bad vibes, man. I don't like this. White man instincts kick in. Let's investigate, gang. Decide to go to the opposite end of the building to start. Kick on the lights. Nothing. Thank God. Check offices one by one with quick glances. Don't like this. Feeling amplifies. Look down the hall to the GM's office. Look back to another office next to me. Look back. A bulky shadow moves just barely across the GM's doors down the hall on the other side, where the door that was ajar is. Just my imagination. Ha 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 ha. Walk to and stand in the lobby for a second with my brother. Decide I'm good with this. Let's leave. We both hear what sounds like a special ed kid attempt to say, "Yup." Stop right there. Pull out my knife and look around and wait for a minute to hear it again. Nothing. All right, cool. Let's leave now. Walk down the hallway. Make it to the door to the shop. Way up! Getting closer. Speed walk to the outside door in the shop. Input the security code. Open the door and flip the lights off. 2 beats later, the lights pop back on. That can only happen when they're turned on by the door to the office space we just came out of. Sprint to the work van. As a side note, there were no other employees in or on the main office building. No cars anywhere in the lot.
I experienced something weird with my mom's old car. This was in 2013 to 2014, 2004 Subaru Forester. Sometimes the radio would glitch out and switch over to a weird station. I didn't even use the radio. I always had my phone plugged into the aux, but it still switched to this station. I think it was FM 80-something. Connecting to it manually would just give me loud static. The station was always a garbled mess. Distorted voices and instruments drowned in static. Could never make anything out except for 2 times. The first time I heard it, and the last, heard it like 4 or 5 times in total. The first time, an old man sang while playing guitar. Can't remember what he said exactly, but he was singing about life and how depressing it can be. The last time, the station popped on with loud static. The static faded to reveal a choir of children singing "You Will Die" over and over again for a few seconds. The radio abruptly switched back to the music I was playing on my phone. Live in a very small island country, and the station was in my native language. Mom sold the Subaru for a smaller car that was cheaper to run. Haven't heard that station since.
Twice, in my room, in the same corner, I have been awoken by the sound of a single loud hand clap. The first time it happened, I was awoken in the middle of the night completely randomly. I felt really concerned and threatened, so I turned on the light and tried to go back to sleep. My mind started to wander, and I thought about a cool film idea about monsters attracted towards light, forcing humans to live in darkness, and how that's a cool contrast between how humanity is inherently scared of the dark and shit like that. Then there was a loud clap in the corner of my room. I can't remember if I stayed still or looked. However, the second time it happened, a few months later, I did look. Nothing was there. I've experienced weird time distortions in my house as well, but I dismiss it easily enough. It involved my cat jumping onto my windowsill to look out the window, jumping down, me thinking she's gone out. My desk is by my bed and I face the door. Then, about 30 seconds to a minute later, she jumps down from the windowsill again. She hadn't gone back up. The only way she could have would have been going out her flap, walking round my house, which is quite large, and jumping up to the first floor, coming through my window and doing it. But this is unlikely for 2 reasons. 1, it was too quick for her to have done it. And 2, the reason she came to me was for food, which I had left out for her. First time I didn't see her leave, but the second time I did, and she looked at me. I went downstairs to show her food, thinking she missed it, but she went straight for it. She isn't dumb. So I don't know how that happened. Oh, And as a kid, I saw and talked to a shadow person. They didn't talk back, I just talked to it. My mother also saw a ghost in this house when we first moved in, and has seen ghosts elsewhere in her life, even walking through walls. She didn't tell me about the ghost she saw until I was older because she didn't want to spook me. I used to hear footsteps coming to my door, etc.
This happened a couple of years ago. My family had a dog. He was very cute, but if we let him inside, he would piss everywhere. One day, my father decided to give him an ultimatum and make him live outside the house. But he was young, and where we live it's very cold. So me and my sister made an agreement with our dad. I was supposed to let him outside after lunch, and my sister after dinner, so he could do his business outside and then sleep inside the house. One day I woke up to barking, outside the house from our garden. It was clearly my dog's bark, and it was freezing cold outside. I figured my sister had forgotten to let him inside before she went to bed. I was dead tired, but I jumped out of bed, took my boots and jacket, and started walking down the stairs. Once I reached the ground floor, I saw something weird. My dog was sleeping on the couch, like every day. But the barking from outside was clearly my dog, and it was coming from the garden facing the back of our door, which was fenced and faced no neighbor houses or anything. I kept listening as it sounded like this dog outside kept getting closer and closer to the back door, a few meters away from me, when my dog woke up and immediately started barking at the door. Once this happened, the barking from outside suddenly stopped. At this point, I was shaking. I have no idea what was outside that night, but it seemed like it was trying to lure someone. There's no way they were thieves. Our town is like 1,000 people, and we all know each other. I thank God I checked the couch before going after those barks.
Go vegan and start meditating profusely, trying to cleanse this degenerate husk of a temple. Starve myself into mania after cold turkeying all vices and snapping tightly into strict dharma. In a flash, I saw everything. The grand event, get sucked into ET worship cult via mass meditation psyops. Psychotic starseed messiah delusions ensue. Mania trip goes bad when I realize I'm being electronically manipulated by hypnotic guided meditations. Time to escape the Earth back to my starseed mothership. Search for the rendezvous point after abandoning car, keys, wallet, and phone. Search in vain for my blue Syrian space waifu's beam ship. Remember the coastline rendezvous animation from Gaia Planetary Station GPS on YouTube. To the water we go. Whole rocky coastline is jagged ice for miles. 12-foot drop from any given point into semi-frozen lake. 90-degree vertical ice cliff on the way up. Start meditating to summon my blue space foo. Grow frustrated and impatient in shitty freezing weather. All of a sudden not cold anymore. Time to get naked. Cast off final talismans of archonic corporate slavery, tethering me energetically to the Earth prison matrix. Meditate a while longer before the epiphany hits. Must be time for a leap of faith into the semi-frozen lake naked. Beam me up, Scotty. Jump, fall. Where's the beam, dog? Avi, no beam today. Climb up onto a flat, circular chunk of ice, balance, and meditate. Become increasingly hypothermic as the realization sets in that this ship ain't coming. Shit, I can't die. I have my first cult meeting tomorrow. Scan the coastline for favorable climbing conditions. Find a C-shaped outcropping I can wedge myself between. Lacerate my entire body climbing the jagged ice cliff naked. Run back to the road on bleeding, punctured feet. First car to pass by stops for my naked, bleeding, psychotic ass. Kind lady cranks the heat and calls an ambulance. That's how I ended up institutionalized for 55 days, where things started getting scary and crazy.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.